I mean, the guy in the video is obviously a millennial, but let's talk about boomers. So, anytime we talk about baby boomers, we're talking about the generation that followed the silent generation, anybody born from 1946 until 1964. It is also sometimes referred to as the me generation. And the reason why it was referred to as such is because there was this rise in a culture of self fulfillment and self realization. I believe it was Tom Wolfe who referred to it as the me decade, and there was a writer later on by the name of Christopher Lasch that talked about the rise of narcissism. Now, the reason why it's helpful to understand some of the characteristics of the baby boomer generation is because, especially for us millennials and Gen X and Zoomers, it helps us understand some of the things that we hear the older generation say in church. And this isn't exclusive just to the baby boomer generation. Remember, out of the overflow of the heart, the mouth speaks, and a lot of times our Christian lingo is used in service of our own selfish desires. We're actually revealing more about ourselves than we are about Christ. And so oftentimes when you hear baby boomers say, well, that's satanic or demonic or that's not biblical, what they're actually saying is that whatever this is, it's standing against my self-actualization and self-realization. In other words, Christianity is serving a way to preserve my way of life, and that thing is threatening it. I actually served under a pastor from the boomer generation, and one of the things that he would do every single Sunday, it seemed like, was tear down millennials. Because in effect, the millennials were destroying the boomer way of life. And then, of course, we would have back office meetings on why don't we have more young people at our church? One of the things I find interesting about this discussion, though, it really comes up when we talk about deconstruction. Because a lot of people who identify as evangelicals or deconstructionists label a lot of what's wrong with the church under the boogeyman of Christian nationalism or evangelicalism. Sorry, American evangelicalism. However, if you actually look into it, a lot of what they're raging against is the ideologies that were brought in from the culture of the baby boomers into the church. And so it's not really a war against the church, it's a war between generations. And one of the things that the Lord speaks through the prophet of Malachi concerning Jesus is saying that when he comes, he will turn the hearts of the fathers to their children and the hearts of the children to their fathers. Otherwise, I will come and strike the land with a curse. And one of the things you can see within the culture right now is this angst playing out between the millennial generation and the people that raised them, the baby boomers. And so there's this throwing off of the chains of the previous generation. And while that is playing out in the culture, it also plays itself out within the church. However, that spirit within the church is actually antithetical to the Spirit of Christ, who wants to turn the hearts of the fathers to the children and the hearts of the children to the fathers. And so instead of repentance and reconciliation, you have schisms. And so, yeah, something that I find very, very interesting that I've been thinking about for like the last 3 years.